Hello again everyone, Mary Rose at Stitch Bliss Corner, and I have been asked to show the way I grid. Now I don't know, I haven't seen anyone grid the way I do, I have to admit, but it's the way that works for me. And I think most people who do grid, they do work out their own method. And it basically is whatever works for you. So this one I developed over a period of time, and so I'm so used to it now that I don't think I could change even if I wanted to. But anyway, this little chart that I have here, it's a free one, so I'm just going to show you how I grid on a small scale. I do have something else to show you after that. It's a method I call scaffolding, but I'll show you that after. So anyway, without further ado, so here, imagine that I want to stitch this. Now I want to know the center of the design, and they've made it very easy because you can see that the center of the design is just there. And so with my fabric, whatever fabric it might be, I always mark the center of my fabric. So just about there would be the equivalent of that little square that I made. So that is where my actual grid line will start. So I'm just going to now get a piece of thread, and my length of thread I've got here, it's a reddish sort of color, so you can see it easily, and it hasn't got a knot at either end. It's just open at either end. And what I need to do is mark that center stitch, but it's going to be in counts of 10, because each box on here is 10. So you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then upwards you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's your little square of 100 squares. So you want to have the same on your fabric. So what I usually do is I go across, I know that's the absolute middle there, so I'm coming across here and I just mark my center. Now for me, instead of marking one, sorry, I'm having trouble. I shouldn't have used I've already used this needle for my couching, and I should have just called time and got another one, but I'm stubborn, I'm sticking with it. So anyway, when you bring the needle up, okay, now there's a lot of thread on that side, but that's because it's got to go from the middle to the edge, and then there's thread on this side that's got to go from the middle to the edge on this side. And because I'm counting up 10 for my first box, I don't just do one stitch up, I do 2 stitches up. So it'll all become clear as I'm doing it, I'm hoping anyway. Oh, actually I could probably show you one that's already gridded, so you can just see what we're heading towards. Because the point is, if you grid, you know how with Q-snaps you can end up with it being the wrong way round or something like that. Instead of being horizontal, it's vertical, and you've done a whole lot of stitching and you find you've put it in your Q-snaps incorrectly. If you grid, you can't do that. I mean, you might get it the wrong way up, so that's you're stitching the bottom instead of the top. But you're not going to get it sideways because your gridding is going to show you which direction it's going to be. So here's one that I've prepared for a piece that I'm going to be doing. And here are my grids. And if you can see here, I don't know what I've done. Usually I have the middle marked. I don't know what happened here. I might have pulled it out for some reason. But anyway, there's the middle. Oh, I know. I pulled it out because I was going to dye it. So here, where am I? Here. Okay, let's just count up here. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So those first two are the first two of the 10 in the box. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then across 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then down 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and across 2, 6, 8, 10. So you know that that's 100 squares there. So I'll show you now how I achieve that. I mean, I've seen people do all sorts of different grids. And as I say, this is just the way I do mine. Right, I'll just get this rebellious needle here. And we'll just put in the first rows. I'll just do a few rows so you can get the idea and go from there. Because there are videos on gridding, and I would have suggested those. It's just that they don't grid the way I do. So I had to do one. I was hoist by my own petard. So anyway, so here's my 2 up. There. Okay. And then I'll go 4, 6, 8, 10. And as you can see, it's vital to get these first 2 rows accurate, because then you can work off the 2 rows that you've got. So 2, 4, 6. Oh, hang on, I'm going the wrong way here. Beg your pardon. I go horizontally to start, so just ignore that bit, because I don't go vertically. In fact, I don't even know why I did that. Right, so we're going to go across, sorry. As you know, I don't like editing, so I won't take that out. Okay, so here we are. So we've got our 2 there. So we go across. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then we come through the hole there. Oh, for crying out loud. Do beg your pardon. Now, so we counted across, that's 10 there. Yeah. Right. I'm just checking it as I go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Right, so that's your first bit there. Now then, see, this is, I'm sorry this is rocking the table there. It's a slanting table, so if I touch the end it moves, so that's why it's rocking. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I want to get that through there. So usually my cross, I usually use white instead of black to mark my center, but in this case I just wanted you to be able to see it. Right, so that's that. Right, and just double check it. 2, 4, 6, 10, yep. Then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, I won't go any further than that on this side. I'll just show you what I do when I get to the edge. If you imagine that I've got to the edge, when I get this far, I just go down my 2 and then I mark it with another 2 across. Like that. Then I'll go to the other side. So here we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Wait till I just get that, because you have to put that first one somewhere. 2, 4, 6. See, I'm such a terrible counter as well. That's why I grid, because I can't count for toffee. No, sorry, I don't think that was in frame anyway. No, see, I think I got counted correctly there. 6, 8, 10. No, I didn't. So I'll just have to go back one. That's why it's so important to double check. All right. And across to the next one. Alright, we'll just go across to the next one. I think I've gone under there. 2, 6, 8. Yeah, the first 2 rows are the most difficult, because once you've got those and you know they're correct, you can just work off those to complete your gridding. Right, and then I'll just show you, if you imagine that's the end of the grid line, and then I just do that to show that that's my first 2 of the 10 going upwards. Right, so that's the first line of grids in. And what I'll do, I'll just take this black out so that you can see them better, now that you've seen the center there. Okay, so there they are. Now I often get a different color for my second line of gridding. And now, once you've put your first line in, well, then you can just start from the edge. You don't have to start from the middle once you've done that. So I'm just going to count up here: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's my first hole. I'll mark it there because I want to just put my knot a bit further away. Right. And I usually just do that little piece, that the 2 stitches to the side, and then I come back down just to get that edge, because that tells me that that's the next row box up. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then you're going to go across to the next one here, and so you can put a, you can mark it if you like, and as long as your next row down is correct, well, that's going to be correct. So it just, you get into a kind of a rhythm of stitching and putting your grids in. Now, the other great thing about gridding is that you can count all your squares. They're all there, the same as your chart. So you can count the number of boxes of 100 on your chart and check that the amount of boxes you have on your gridding are the same, and you'll know that your design will fit within that. The number of times I've got a piece of fabric out thinking that something's going to fit on, and it doesn't once I've done my gridding, and it saves heartbreak. That's what it boils down to. I mean, I've seen quite a few people who've done some beautiful work, and then they get 3/4 of the way down and realize they haven't got enough room for the rest of it. I mean, that's because the thing is, your eye can make you think that there's enough room there, but for some reason there isn't. It's like the TARDIS, 4, 6, 8, 10. Sorry, I'm just checking. And across to here. And there's your next line of grids. So each with 100 squares, like that. And that's really how I do it. You just have to remember that that's the bottom part. I think that's the only confusing thing, if there is anything about mine, is that it's 2, 2, 2, 2 up to the next one to make the 10, rather than a single stitch and then 9 to get up to the next one. I can't be asked doing that. It just doesn't work for me at all. I used to get very confused. So do you want me to do one more row? All right, I'll do one more row, and then I'll show you my scaffolding, and that'll be that. So I'll just go down here, and we'll go down here. So I'll use the blue because that's the other side of this red here. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you're going vertically. I'll just go across a bit to put my knot in there and come back. Then I go into there, up to there. And I can check like that and across there. And sometimes, with the best will in the world, you can have one that's wrong, one stitch over or something like that. Well, I just cut it pull that little bit out, but I don't do the whole grid line again. I just go from the one above and the one below of where that hole, that square is supposed to be. So, you know, you don't have to pull it all out if it's just one that's gone wayward. And I mean, the best time to do gridding, I think, is, you know, if you're watching TV or something, and it's, you know, something that you're enjoying, but you don't want to really cross stitch because, you know, you have trouble following a chart or something like that. Well, gridding's perfect because it just keeps you occupied. If you're someone that can't sit there and do nothing, I can't sit and watch TV and do nothing. I have to be doing something. So gridding's perfect for me. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep. And of course, another good tip is to make sure that you mark the top of your work with either a T or put a safety pin in there or something, because on the early stages of your stitching it's very easy to end up going the wrong way or something like that. But if you've marked the top, you're usually pretty right. So anyway, that's my gridding technique. I hope they made myself obscure for you. And here's another line of grids that I've got ready for my next one of my next pieces. Just love that. I dyed that with food colouring. Anyway, now onto the scaffolding. Now this is Coastal View, I think it's called, from Dimensions, and I haven't done this one for quite some time, so I'm going to get back to it relatively soon. Now, if you can see, some of my grids have disappeared because when I was doing this I was just pulling them out as I went, and not knowing at the time that it was going to go into storage or whatever happened. So now I have a line here with no grids in it along there. So what I do, just to reorientate myself, is I get some white cotton like this, and I have a look at the grid that I already have. So I have some, I'm trying to get this into shot here. I've got this grid here, and see, this is one of those annoying things about some charts. Some of them, for reasons known best to themselves, instead of making that line 10 stitches wide, they make it 9 stitches wide. And that can be very confusing, you know, especially if you're counting and not gridding. Anyway, that's another bugbear of mine, but I don't think they do it quite as much these days because probably people have told them. So I'll just get back to this scaffolding idea I was telling you about. So what I do is I come across here like this, and then I'll go up. Oh, hang on, that's in the wrong. Oh, I suppose it's in the right place, really. Well, I'll go to the next one because I don't want to be asked with that 9 stitch thing. Right. So here I can go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I'm up, that's my 10 line for stitching. And I can go across to this one. And then 2, 4, go across to that one. Probably it'll be hard for you to see this white cotton, but anyway, 2. This is just to reorientate myself because it saves a lot of time. It looks a bit cumbersome, but it's worth it if you're coming back to a piece that you haven't picked up for a long time. And all this you can just pull it out. And sometimes it gets stitched in at the back, but no one ever sees it, so what does it matter? As long as it doesn't show at the front, because you just clip it. Counting 10 across again. Down to 10 down. You can see what I'm doing, honestly. It's the last overheads I'm going to be doing, that's for sure. You'd probably be very happy to hear that. 2 across there. Right, so I think you're getting the idea of what I'm doing now. And I'll just hold it up a bit closer in a second when I get these few more lines in. And that's the next one up, I think. Yeah, I'm just counting across. I do beg your pardon for going out of frame. It's just really difficult. Harlequin did offer to hold the iPad for me, but I thought, the poor man, I can't expect him to stand there trying to follow me. So I said, no, that's fine, thank you. He's such a treasure. Right, so I think I'll just pull up here somewhere. I'm going to just finish this and then I'll hold it up so you can see what I've been doing. Across to there. Right. If you can see, I've made little squares all the way along here using the existing grid lines to reinsert some grid lines, but it's more like scaffolding, and that's just because I haven't been near this work for quite some time and I just want to reorientate myself to this area, and it'll just be so easy once I look at my chart. I'll be able to find this lot of stitches here and I'll know exactly where I am in the 100 stitch grid there. I mean, how easy is that? So I hope that is something that you might consider. So thank you very much for your company. And I will be doing an update a little bit later in the month. And until then, it's goodbye from Mary Rose.